So welcome to all the participant in this session on overview of mobile GIS. So we'll be talking about the technology and application. So before starting my session, I would like to make few announcement from here. And as we are getting many queries related to the question related to the examinations, attendance, study material, and all. So first issue what participants are raising is on the attendance. As you know that in our course brochure, we have already announced the minimum attendance is 70%. But since the initial times, 2-3 days, there was some issue in our server. So now we will be reducing this percentage of attendance because initial 3 days we could not record the attendance properly, although we have taken the attendance manually. So I request all the participants. So now you please log in through your e-class login in the portal. So your attendance will be automatically recorded. So you have to note down here the important point that during the class time you have to log in, and the minimum duration to be there in the class is around 40 minutes. 40 to 50 minutes you have to be there. So then only your attendance will be recorded. And you can also watch these videos in the offline mode. Offline means we have already uploaded this video in our e-class platform. So you can watch, and in fact you can also see all the questions which were posted by the participant during the session. This is point number one. Second point is in our question tab, we have seen that many students are typing their registration number, or sometime also saying that they are presented something like this. So I request all the participants, please do not type anything in the text box. So unnecessary messages are creating problem for our scientists to take these questions from the this chat box. So please maintain a discipline. We are continuously flashing this message that please do not post your attendance in the chat box because attendance is already being taken care by the system. So please make a note of it, and you only post your questions. So otherwise forcefully we have to disable this message box. This will create a problem for you. So this is a very important point what you have to note here. Second part, the question is coming on the study material. As you all knows that we are also operating in a lockdown mode. Most of our faculty are answering the questions from their home itself. So we are not able to get the study material sometime. That's why there is some delay. Otherwise we are trying our best to upload the study material into your account. So you please visit this section of study material in e-class. So we are trying to upload all the PDF version of these presentations, and if any additional supporting document is there, we'll definitely uploading it. Otherwise, in later stage also we'll be keep on updating the study material sections. So please visit that part of your e-class and then download the content for offline use. The next, the question which is we are frequently getting from the participant is on the examination part. So I would like to inform all of you that we'll be conducting the online examinations at end of this programs. At this stage we cannot give you the exact date. Generally in the IRAS outreach program we are conducting the examinations at end of every month, and or last week of the month or first week of the month. But this time due to this lockdown condition we may not able to conduct the examination as per the schedule. So we'll be announcing the date separately. So here conduction of examination will again a problem for us. It will be challenging task because earlier we used to conduct the examination under supervision of our coordinators at the university and institute level, but this time since institutions are closed, so the supervision of the coordinator may not be possible. So that's why we have to devise a new mechanism how we will be conducting these exams. So for this we are discussing with our managements. Whatever decision is being taken here, so we'll be intimating you. So please be in touch and see the updates in the e-class and IRAS website. And once this decision is taken, so definitely we'll be sending a message as an email and SMS to you, so that you can participate in the examination. Here, all will not be allowed to participate in examinations. Based on your attendance, we'll be giving you the qualification criteria. Here we'll be fixing it. Based on this, the participant will be eligible for the online examinations. So these are the few announcements. For any further queries, you can always write email to us at the dlp@iirs.gov.in, and also you can write directly to the faculty. Their email IDs are always available in the first slide of their presentation, but since they are not able to join the office, so faculty may not be able to see all the mails, because in ISRO the emails are not accessible from home. So once they join in the later stage, they will see the mail and they will try to answer your queries. Otherwise, you post your queries here, will definitely answer during the session. And now I will start the session on the mobile GIS. My colleague Mr. Kamal was supposed to take this session, but since he is not available, so that's why I am here to deliver the session. So mobile GIS, it is in continuation of the morning session what Dr. Samir has taken. He already informed about the basic principles of GIS, where we knows about the vector data, raster data. We knows about the characteristics of the vector and rasters, which we are storing as the attribute. Sometimes we call it the non-spatial data. And these attributes also we store in the database management system, or sometimes the relational database management system. And then by identifying a suitable key, like a primary key or foreign key or candidate key, we basically link this data with the geographical features, and then we build the GIS queries, we build the GIS analysis. He has also shown you some of the applications where GIS is successfully implemented. So now I will continue this session with the mobile GIS, and this is very popular these days with the user of this technology. As you know that in today's environment, the GIS is basically available as a server applications, where majority of GIS operations, right from the mapping and visualization to data services, data editing, geoprocessing, cataloging, all these features are available in the server applications, and the user can access all these tools and services directly from their computation devices, such as desktop computers, mobiles, tablet, and so on. So earlier days, the GIS technology was basically limited to the a very specific class of users like scientists, researchers, and GIS professionals. But in the invent of this internet technology and the invent of this server-based applications has allowed to make available these tools and services to the users as a web application or as a web service. And most important point in this thing is the standards of data, standards of softwares, and tools, services, everything is available in the open platform, so that the cross-platform integration of these services are quite possible, either using the web services, using the API concept like a REST APIs, which makes it most secure. And here today, the GIS is becoming a part of the or integral part of the IT services, where the information technology related developments can be directly integrated with GIS, so that the user can take the benefit of it. So if you talk about the mobile GIS, so here I am trying to display a conceptual architecture, and in this architecture you can see there are two components, two major components. Right side you can see here web and mobile servers. Here what does it mean? Here basically these are the server based applications which are hosting the mobile applications, hosting the databases, and then directly providing or connecting these services through wireless connections to the mobile devices. So when we have these server applications, here two things you have to remember. These mobile GIS applications either can be a thick client applications or a thin client application. If it is a thick client application, so every time you have to dependent on the servers. If connectivity is lost, then you will not able to operate these GIS applications. So in this case, what we are trying to do is we are trying to transfer some of the capability of the server to directly to mobile devices, so that in the offline mode also we can operate these applications. So to do this, we need a mobile device, and here the challenge for developer is basically these mobile devices are having a limited computation capability in terms of memory, in terms of processing capability, in terms of presentation capability. So we have very small screen in this mobile device, we have limited number of RAM, limited amount of processing capability. So then we have to develop a very specific kind of software here. This is a challenge for the developers. To do this, we need a specific mobile operating system, and these days we know that the Android, iOS and Windows, these are few popular mobile operating systems, and these mobile operating system will allow you to install a thick client application called as a mobile GIS software into your mobile itself. So generally these mobile GIS softwares are basically installed in the client machines or client mobile device, and then database part will be accessed through the server. So since in the GIS the size of data is a very important point here. So here sometimes the host organizations are publishing data in the gigabytes, in the terabytes or in petabytes sometime. So all data cannot be transferred to the mobile device of the user, so that the connectivity is required. But here we use a concept of called caching or data caching techniques. So here the some part of this data is loaded into the mobile device or the computer this user, so that in the offline mode also these mobile can be used for operating this GIS software. The advantage of the mobile GIS is basically here we have the two important sensors generally available in these smart mobile phones. One we call it a GPS, and second we call it as a camera. So GPS basically is a global positioning system. This part was discussed in during the session of Dr. Ashutosh Bharadwaj. He must have taken the examples of different GPS based applications. So in case of mobile, it's GPS or Navic, IRNSS, or maybe your other services can be made available here, and these services are basically coming under the category of GNSS or Global Navigation Satellite System. So here we are getting the location information in the form of latitude and longitude and altitude. So latitude, longitude and altitude information we can capture in the real time mode. So here you have to remember the GPS basically is operating in a different network which is not dependent on the internet every time. So although these days many internet service providers are also providing you services for the giving the location based information like in your coordinates, but you have to make a very clear difference here. GPS basically operating on the satellite based connectivity, and the GPRS or other network based connectivities are ground based connections what we are basically connecting through the wires. So here the GPS based location services basically we are getting from the satellites, and if you are not having the internet also, that time also GPS will be operating or giving the location information into your mobile device. Then we also can use the camera, which is a very important sensor which is available in your mobile. So these cameras today most of the time we are using the optical cameras, but it can be a thermal camera or any other additional camera we can install through our mini USB device, so that this mobile device can become a very important sensor for recording the ground based observations, which can be geotagged in the with the help of the coordinate of the GPS or Navic, so that easily the location based services can be built here. So this is a simple architecture generally what we are following, and on top of this complete hardware and the system, you can build your own mobile GIS applications based on the requirement of your users. Some of the mobile applications I will be demonstrating you or maybe giving you as an example in the end of my session. Now if you see the today's environment mapping on the web today, we knows about the Google Map applications. They have the very rich contents, very rich information about the geography of your locality. They are having the infrastructure data. They have the lot of traffic related information. They have integrated lot of data from the different sensors, and different kind of services are available. Then we have the OpenStreetMap. This is another open project which was developed by a community, UK based community. This project was started by a gentleman called Steve Coast in 2004. Very popular website, openstreetmap.org, again developed on based on the crowdsourcing concept, where a lot of data is available. In India, we have the ISRO Bhuvan, which is a portal developed by Indian Space Research Organization in 2009. Here, what we are trying to do is, basically we are trying to generate a thick geographical information or rich contents for the India. So here, satellite data is coming from our own satellite sensors, and the vector data or the infrastructure informations basically we are collecting through the ground-based observations, or sometime we are also creating this data using the digitizations under different projects and making available this data to the user community. Then there are many such applications exist. We have the Bing Map from the Microsoft. We have the NSDI from the Department of Science and Technology. We have the Map My India and so on. If you search in internet, you will be getting thousands of such mapping applications are available for the different applications today in internet, and you can utilize these applications for your own study or your own project. Then the another advantage of the online mapping, where we can use the desktop version of your computers or mobile and so on. So here we can develop a very interactive map, so like multimedia maps. So you can also include the animations, you can do a lot of visual effects, so you can also geocode your videos, so that the information can be improved, and this information can be used for the better decision making and planning activities. So these are the advantages. So here we are basically including the users, and the users are providing this data from the different mode, either through mobiles or some other mode, and sometimes directly from the sensors. So real time monitoring of the data and a very effective animations or visual effect can be built using this online mapping platform. Now here you have to also note down the two important terminologies. Generally what we are using in this mobile GIS is called VGI and PPGIS. So VGI is volunteered geographical informations, and for this, if you go to the internet, you can see the Wikimapia, OpenStreetMap and so on. There are so many websites, so where they have basically built a lot of tools to collect this information from the users. So directly you can log into the account, you can start contributing in the mapping activities, you can also start identifying the places in your locality, so that easily the system will create the map and will store in the database system. And then the public participation in GIS is also very popular these days, called PPGIS. So here we involve the users directly in the data creations, planning and decision making activities on the GIS platform. So this technology called PPGIS. So PPGIS is possible because in today's environment we have very good internet connectivities, and our smart mobile phones are capable to do lot of computation things in their local devices itself. So here public participation in GIS is another important terminology which frequently we are using in GIS. Today morning also the crowdsourcing and the participatory approach was discussed in details. So here the crowdsourcing is basically you are involving the users in the data creations and all the GIS activities. So here the crowdsourcing is an online distributed problem solving and production model. Here basically we are calling user as a crowd. Basically when I say the user as a crowd, it is basically an online community which is involved in directly in the website or web applications, so that they can submit their solution directly to the host organizations. So here the challenge for the host organizations are basically how to motivate the users. So how to motivate is a point number one, which is very important for the organizations. Basically those are publishing these applications. Second is the quality of the contents. The quality of contents, how to improve and how to check the quality. Again here we have the different algorithms exist today in the computer science. So like a ranking based algorithms. So here we can involve the crowd in the data creations, data validation itself. Then we can also involve the crowd to do their ranking here, so the best voted solution can be adopted as a solution by the host. So there are many such techniques in some other courses where we are conducting a dedicated course on the crowdsourcing or participatory GIS. We discuss in detail the computation architectures, how the server-side applications are taking the data, how this data is validated, how data is improved, how the quality stamping is done on this data. But here for this particular course, you have to understand the crowdsourcing concept is very, very important and emerging concept, where basically you can directly involve your users in data creations, planning, decision making, data validation, data analysis, data processing, modeling, and so on. Then this is a typical examples. If you work on the online mapping and editing using the crowdsourcing concept, so this screen capture I have taken from the OpenStreetMap. In this website, you can see here, if you are basically involved in the mapping activities, the satellite imageries or aerial photographs are available as a background layers. So then you can very easily detect your by visually you can detect the locations or object in the ground. So then you can start digitizing these objects. So why this digitization is required? If my playground is nicely visible in the satellite image, why I should digitize it as a polygon? This is very, very important point what you have to understand, because the satellite data or aerial photographs what we are capturing through our space-based sensors can provide you the footprint of the geographical features. Like it can say that it is a like a ground. Either this ground belongs to a playground, it belongs to a agriculture ground area, or it belongs to some other things. This information is known as a characteristics of this data. So characteristics necessarily you have to record from the ground survey. So another example I will give you here. Suppose you are taking a satellite image of your locality and you are able to identify a building footprint there. You say that there is a building, this is a building, and easily I can see that based on the signatures, based on the characteristics of this or maybe the visual effect, I can say it is definitely a building. But either this building belongs to a government building, either it's belongs to a school, hospital, or it is a shopping complex or XYZ. These characteristics necessarily you have to record from the ground. Now, if it is in this form of the simple raster image or as a only footprint, the present technology may not allow you to link the attribute of each geographical feature in the raster image. So here necessarily you have to convert this as a vector image. So what does it mean? So when you digitize this feature on your map, then the footprint will be taken from the satellites and the attribute will be collected from the ground. And while collecting the attribute, you have to use the mobile devices, because the mobile devices are considered as one of the very, very convenient tool in today's environments, because most of the surveyors, most of our users are having the smart mobile phone. So directly the attribute you can collect and then you can link with the footprint. So this way the data is created in GIS. Once this is done, then you can develop analysis, you can develop lot of queries, data processing on the vector data. Like if you digitize all the roads, all the junction point, and also to give the name and also the traffic, either it is a one-way road, two-way road, then you can do the network analysis. You can identify the shortest route from one location to another location. You can do the other network analysis like optimization of your traffic, so on. So here you have to understand the crowdsourcing can help you very, very effectively to digitize a good quality map or good quality vector map in a very, very short duration. So when I say the short duration, because if I am going to digitize all the geographical feature in my locality, say 1:4000 scale, if I adopt the traditional GIS where I have to basically acquire the satellite image, then I have to select the appropriate GIS softwares, I have to give the training and or build a skill set to do the mapping, then it will take maybe 10, 20 or 30 or 50 years to complete the 1:400 or 4000 scale mapping. But if you adopt the crowdsourcing, so you can involve thousands of people together to create these maps. So that's why the crowdsourcing will help you to generate the maps online in a very, very short time. So typical successful example here could be your Google Map. So Google came in market in 2006, and today you can see in 2020 they have full data coverage of entire globe because they adopted this technology called crowdsourcing. In fact, last 10 years, Google is successfully operating their business on top of this cloud source data. Then come to the point which is very important in the mobile GIS. So here first tool what I am introducing here is called handheld computers. So this is basically this involves a GPS enabled PDA. These are personal digital assistant, and these devices basically are available in the commercial mode. And other than your mobiles, if you use these devices, they can give you the better precision, a precise information. So better quality maps can be created. They have the very specific tools here. Sometimes they say that centimeter or millimeter accuracy you can get, but if you take the typical GPS coordinate, 15 to 20 meter error will be there. So if you required a high precision applications, so that time you can use the handheld computer devices or called as a PDA. So earlier 10 years back these devices were very popular, but these days in the today's environments, when we are basically getting the signal from Navic in the mobile itself, so that time the accuracy is drastically increasing, but slowly very less people are using these devices. But still, where you require a better quality maps or better accuracy, then PDA devices are being used. And what these PDs are providing, these are called the mini computers. They have voice recorders, word processor, spreadsheet, data loggers, graphic calculators, digital camera, mobile phones, personal organizers, wireless communication devices, email services. Basically, it's like a mini computers. But you can take these computers into your field. You can start digitizations, you can start creating the maps, you can directly in real-time mode if it is connected with the networks, so you can transfer data in real-time mode to the server also. So how you can use these devices, basically you have to load the satellite image or maybe the prerequisite images or data into your device, and you can take these devices in the field, and directly from field itself you can start creating the shapefile. Shapefile is basically a data format which is very popular in the vector data model. We are using this file format for storing our vector, point, line and polygons, and you can also attach your photographs, audio, video clips with your map features, so that your data will give a better information to your users. Typical example is a survey point selected. Here you can see the red dot, what you are seeing in your screen right now. These red dots are point collected by PDA device, and here the advantage will be you'll be having the better precision in these points, so that the better quality data is recorded during the survey time. Then these data sets, when we are recording through PDA or mobiles, basically the many organizations and companies are providing these as a location focused APIs. APIs are basically application programming interface. Like Google is giving their own APIs, MapQuest. We have the Esri GIS APIs, other location services like you have the Facebook, Geoloki, Geomarketing, Geofencing, Geosocial. There are so many such service providers are available in the market today, and they are collecting lot of data or geocoded data, and this geocoded data is available to the users as API. They are not giving the original data to the users, and the API is basically a method which will allow you to integrate this data into your own software. Suppose you are developing or writing your own software, so if you have the APIs available with you, so directly you can link this data with your softwares. So once the data is updated in the server side, so automatically your software or application will also be updated. So this is a new methods which was devised by the software developers for sharing of the software code, sharing of the data services and so on. So are available in the market. Some of them are free of cost, but some of them are on the cost basis also. So here in this slide I have listed out few open source and commercial softwares which are available for mobile GIS applications. So first software is QField. QField is a product from the Quantum GIS. It is a field data captures in the Android devices, and here if you install the QField into your computer or into your mobile device, so directly you can start creating your maps by sitting in your home or by moving while you are moving in the fields. Directly you can start your mapping activities. Very powerful and popular tool which is available as a open source or free product. You can download from the website and install it into your Android phone. Then we have the GBSIC mobile website. It is a full GIS software for mobile Windows Android devices. It runs on the Windows and other Java based mobiles. Wherever Java is supported by the mobile operating system, so GBSIC you can install. Again, it is a free and open source. GeoODK is another interesting product which is available from Institute of Washington DC. They have provided as a free product, very popular product, and here the compatibility of this software is only the Android. Here you cannot install into iOS or Windows, but in Android it works very good. And here you can start creating your point line polygons in your mobile, and finally you can transfer this data to the server. So here you have to understand whatever products I am displaying here. So basically the software architecture of these products are basically they transfer the extensive markup language or XML document or sometimes the JSON directly from the client to server, and in the server you have to write a parser for the XML and JSON. Then you can basically convert this as a map features. These are the technology what they are using it. Then in the commercial mode, very popular software is ArcGIS. Again, the ArcGIS is having their mobile applications, very popular. So you can explore it. It works in the Android, iOS and Windows. And then from ISRI, it is available on the cost basis. You can start using this product for any commercial purpose or any R&D purpose too. Then we have the Map PT, we have the Super Geo mobile app and so on. The top 3-4 are very popular, so others also you can explore in later stage. So where we can use these devices or where we can use these softwares? One is a location based services, second is a real time mappings, crowdsourcing, public participations, field data collections, situational awareness, real time traffic monitoring system, real time vehicle tracking monitoring systems. So here you can use it. So all this kind of requirement if you have, then you can go for the mobile GIS. So as I told you, the majority of server and the client applications are available free of cost from these providers. You can start downloading, you can configure your servers, and sometime you can also configure the cloud based servers so that directly data can be transferred from the client to the server, and then you can utilize data for your own projects or activities. Some of the case studies I would like to mention here, although I could not update all the case studies here, but some of the case study I will show you. So this is a typical architectures generally what we are using in our system in the ISRO, like mobile devices where basically GPS or NAVIC signals are basically we are receiving from the satellites, which are giving us the location information in the form of the latitude, longitude, and then we transfer this lat long and the other attribute and features or geographical features to the server through the GPRS connectivities, either 3G or 4G connectivities, and we maintain a server firewall, and the firewall basically understand the signature of the data, in-out data. So based on the characteristics and defined rules, if it qualify, then firewall will allow to basically transfer this data to server. In the server generally we run a parser like a XML parser or JSON parser, and then we transfer this data to relational database management or ORDBMS, like we have these days we are very frequently using the MongoDB or MySQL and Apache Hadoop, other platforms, and we transfer this data, and here the real time data is transferred to the server. And we also basically plan a scheduling of this parser so that the data is updated on a continuous interval, and already the base informations like infrastructure layers, road, your point of interest and so on, or land use map or maybe other thematic data sets are already available. So this data is integrated in real time mode. Then we build the application to the users, and the users are not knowing which data is coming from which servers. Either this data is real time or is stored. So it's basically a mess of applications we are developing. And here when we develop the mess of applications, as you know that in today's environment everything is not available in the single servers, so we can consume the data from the different servers, and these servers are providing the APIs, web services and so on. And then for disaster management, emergency response system, real-time vehicle tracking systems, online mapping application, urban plannings, and there are many. You please visit our website bhuvan.nrsc.gov.in. You can see hundreds of such applications are available where this technology is successfully implemented for many government our flagship programs like your Manrega, Prime Minister Krishi Sinchai Yojanas. In fact, in this COVID-19 monitoring and tracking purpose also the same concept is being used, so that we can effectively do the geofencing, geo-targeting and kind of applications, which I am going to discuss in later stage of my presentation. So here a mess-up application is developed, and finally this mess-up application is basically shared with the users, and users are allowed to visualize, to query, to generate the report, to edit the data, update the data and so on. Then if you talk about the disaster management, there are many such applications, but this is a typical applications developed by ISRO. So what we are doing here is, in this same architectures what I discussed a few minutes back, here the real-time data is transferred for the disaster monitoring purpose, if either it's a man-made or natural disasters. So this data is transferred to the servers directly. So here right now, although we are using the GPRS connectivity, but at the same time we can also transfer this data through the satellite-based communications. So when the data is transferred in the real-time mode, so a better monitoring of the disaster is possible here, so that we can develop a very effective rescue plan. And this particular architecture we designed for the NDRF, that is a National Disaster Response Force, and under the NDMA, this is a typical examples. So here there are so many options are given. After successful logins, you can start recording the location informations. You can take the photographs. You can like a accident locations, and the real-time mode you can transfer to the servers. It can be monitors here. So once data is received in the servers, here we use the ODK as APIs in the background. The similar kind of applications we developed for a program called Amrut under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. There also, based on their design documents, we customize the applications. We design a new basically server form, and then shared with the users, so that they can utilize the same platform for basically for their ground survey. So then you can receive this data. See here, automatically the point is created on the map, and if you click on this point, the attributes are shown here, all these attributes. So whatever way you want display, you can modify. If you are developers, you have the software developer, they can change the look and feel everything. Then in the GIS platform, when you consume this data, you can also visualize it as a 3D environment like here. So the photograph is available, attributes are available, and then the satellite image and the points are basically automatically created. The same way you can create the line, polygon and so on. Then if you have the other maps available as a vector data in your server, in that case you can overlay these vector data. Here different colors are shown, and this vector data, then further you can build your own analysis. So this is the typical example. Basically I am showing on the Quantum GIS. So Quantum GIS is a desktop GIS software, and here if you integrate the data from the mobiles plus local data from the servers, so very effective disaster management plan can be made here. Then this is a simple query. So here, since Quantum GIS is having the hundreds or maybe thousands of data analysis tool, or in fact if you are a Python programmer, easily you can write your own code. You can analyze this data the way you want, and you can generate the report, and you can present as a graph, as a graphical view, as a map view, as a report. So all these tools are quite possible here. So some of the screenshot here in this mobile as a user, if you are visualizing. So here you see here in this particular point here, the weather information is extracted from the AccuWeather, and the cloud condition is extracted from the INSAT series of satellite, INSAT 3D and 3DR. You can see the every half an hour this cloud coverage will change, so that if you are in the disaster rescue operations, you can see the alerts from the satellites for the coverage, or maybe forecast for next few hour or next day, how the weather is going to be. And then you can also point the different hospital locations or facility nearby your locality. Suppose I am here in this point in blue color, I can see which are the hospitals available in nearby my locality and what kind of services are available there, and doctors availabilities and their other instrument and so on. You can also generate the buffer zonation. You can do here. Suppose I am standing here in the rescue operation during the disasters, so directly I can see show me the all the hospitals or maybe schools or maybe XYZ government amenities within the 1 kilometers, 500 meters, 2 kilometers. This kind of buffer or proximity analysis I can perform here. This is for mapping. This is screen. You can see in the mobile itself. You can start creating the polygons. You can identify the zones where you feel that are sensitive for this disaster or this emergency situations. This is for the again weather alerts, and these are. And then in this kind of mobile application, you can also develop a tool for the distress call or emergency call. If the person who is taking these observations or sending this information to the from the ground to the control room, he or she himself herself are in the problem, that time they can simply press a button, a distress button, so automatically their lat long locations will be transferred to the server, so that the another team can be sent there easily in their location, so that the action or rescue operation can be done. Then we have for the healthcare services. Morning also, Dr. Samir has already shown many such applications where the mobile-based solutions are basically used. Here you have to understand the concept of data transfer from the mobile to server to then your database server. So here I told you about the JSON and XML concept that you have to remember. The same thing for the vehicle tracking, in the real-time tracking of the vehicles. This software already available in many places. In fact, you can track the vehicles in the Google also. But if you wish to develop your own software, want to understand how it works, basically in a certain interval, like few seconds, 10 second, 15 second or 5 second, whatever you set it, it will start posting the location information to the server, so that you can generate a line kind of things, because ultimately it will be sending the point. By combining the or connecting the different points, you can create the line, and these lines can be shown with some different color, so that it looks like a tracking of the vehicles in the real time mode. For the healthcare service also, we use these devices for the geotagging of the health services, health centers, their amenities, their facilities, either ambulance is there or not, some laboratory, pathology lab, doctors availability, number of beds and so on. So geotagging was done. Finally, I would like to mention few emerging terminologies on the mobile GIS, which is very popular, like geofencing. Very important. We use this concept especially in the area like your for the fishermen when they are in the sea surface or maybe ocean somewhere. So if they are basically crossing their boundary of their country, so if geofencing is implemented, they easily you can send the alert to them, please do not cross this, because you are reaching to the some other part of the, or you are crossing the your own country boundary. So because the location is being tracked or recorded in a certain interval, so geofencing kind application can be developed. Geo-targeting is a very important or emerging points where you can target a specific class of users. Here recently government has launched a very interesting applications called Arogya Setu. So government is asking everyone to basically install this application in their mobile. So here the geo targeting means you can target a specific class of user or users, so that if you are knowing that their locations where they are, and you have the database of their locality on the COVID-19, so then you can alert them. You can target a specific users based on their latitude and longitude, so that they will be alert. So here the idea is to build a geofencing and geo-targeting concept in this Arogya Setu also. It's a very, very important application, and it's an excellent initiative by government. If we start using it, then our location will be tracked, and already government is having the location of each basically affected person. Then that time it can be easily linked. But here it will be successful only if maximum people are using it, and you have to enable your location services. So this is a typical applications where basically we can say that the mobile GIS is having a very, very big strength. Crowdsourcing, already we discussed about it. Citizen science is another terminology. So citizen science, Dr. Samir sir also morning discussed about it. And here basically this science basically you are again you are including or involving the citizen in the scientific projects and activities. Then neo-geography is another terminology basically called as a mass-up architecture. Here basically combining the different geographical information, you are developing a new application which was never envisaged by the host organization or host person. So neo-geography is another terminology. Community GIS. So community participation, when you include in the GIS using mobile devices, it called as a community GIS. Then location based services, very, very popular these days, like your Ola, your Uber, your Zomato, Swiggy, all are using these location based services for giving you the better services to the customers. So these are the few popular applications of mobile GIS. So here, as I told you in the architecture here, that two important sensors, your locations and your camera, are very, very important for us. And the number of more sensor can be integrated or can be connected with your applications through your mini USB, so that better observation can be made. So it's a very brief presentation on this concept. So thank you very much for your active participations. So now I request all the participants to please post your questions in the question tab. Please remember here, do not post your attendance or your registration number there, otherwise I will not able to take the question. It is completely disturbing to the faculty, so that so it is a request from our side. Please post only question in the question. Thank you very much.